Hey guys, welcome back to Main Street Living. Danielle, the date for filing your taxes this year has just passed us all by. Your date has passed us all by, right? So for some people, that's relief because they finally had to stop procrastinating and just get it done.
Yes, I'm guilty of the procrastinating for sure, but for others, it's a huge stress point. If they have tax issues that they're not really sure how to resolve or just haven't gotten around to filing their taxes, no matter where you are on that spectrum, have no fear. We have a tax expert here to simplify even the most complicated tax questions. Please welcome in tax attorney Adam Brewer. Adam, thanks so much for joining us on Main Street Living again.
Yeah, great to be back. Thank you.
So, Adam, if you owe taxes that you're not really sure how to pay, is it better to still file on time or wait until you have enough money to pay those?
Yeah, this is a great question, but fortunately, the answer is pretty straightforward as far as tax answers go. So yeah, always file on time if you can, or if you're not going to make that April 15th deadline most years, request an extension, get out to October 15th. But yeah, always file on time, and here's why: because if you miss the filing deadline, IRS is going to charge you 5% per month late filing penalty. Whereas on the other hand, if you file, even if you owe taxes, they only charge you 0.5% per month. So really the penalty for filing late is 10 times larger than the penalty for paying late. So always file on time if at all possible.
Okay. So with filing on time, clearly no one wants to end up owing taxes, Adam. So what are some tips for figuring out how much we'll owe each year, and so we can try to avoid those big tax surprise bills?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if your income is relatively the same as the prior year, you can always use that prior year's tax return as kind of a benchmark. And then if you ended up owing, let's say you owed for 2021 and you don't want to owe again for 2022, either go to your employer and adjust your withholding, so more tax is set aside each pay period, or if you're self-employed, you can catch up on estimated tax payments. So those are quarterly deposits that you make to the IRS or to your state. And then it's pretty much just money in the bank. And then at the end of the year, you have that extra credit sitting there when you file your taxes.
All right.
Yeah.
But for some people, even if you file on time, they can't pay the full amount they owe the IRS. What are the options if you end up with a tax bill that you can't pay off all at once?
Yeah, so there's a number of options. I'll break it down by time frame. So if you need just say 30 days, 60 days to pay, you can call the IRS. You can say, hey, I need 30 or 60 days. They'll put a hold on your account. It's really not a big deal. If you need, let's say, a few months to pay, you call the IRS, say, hey, I need a one-time 180-day hold. So they'll put a collection hold on your account, 180 days. That gives you 6 months to come up with the amount. If you need a few years to pay, let's say it's a larger balance, the old fallback is the installment agreement. So you call the IRS, you say, hey, I need an installment agreement. Generally, 72 months is kind of the benchmark there. So take your balance due, divide it by 72, then that's what you propose to pay them every month. So that's really kind of, I'd say, break it out that way: a few weeks, a few months, and a few years. But for most taxpayers, they're going to fit into one of those options.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back to a couple of questions ago too, because you actually confirmed something that I know that I've been doing as far as my tax withholdings. I would actually claim, I believe it's 1 or 0, right? So they could take out the most amount of taxes, and that actually does help. And then I actually have them take out an additional amount just to protect me for the state tax side, because I think people don't realize state and federal taxes, they can be deducted a little bit differently. Have you noticed that, like being a trend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially this really goes back to the Tax Cut and Jobs Act 2017. So that's like the Trump tax cuts. That's really where a lot of states kind of diverged from the IRS. So up until then, the tax policies were pretty much in line, state and federal. Then the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. So you have states like California, New York, who say, you know what, we're gonna kind of stick with what we were doing. And then the IRS went off on sort of a new path there. So definitely something that you touched on is super important is, yeah, state and federal, they're not always going to be, in step in that way. So make sure that you have enough tax without federal and state.
Got you, got you. So Adam, what solutions can you offer someone who really has a big bill that they won't be able to pay off in just a few months?
Yeah. So if it's a bill, let's say not even a few months or a few years, if it's just an amount, you go, you know what, I'll never pay this off, not in 10 years, not in my lifetime. That's really where we want to look at like doing a settlement. So we call that the offer and compromise. And that's really where we go to the IRS or to the state and we say, look, here's the income, here's the expenses, here's the assets, here's the liabilities, and figure out what the true collection potential is. And then we offer that amount as a settlement to the IRS or to the state. And that's really the best way to cut into a massive tax bill. Rather than just treading water through collection holds, through installment agreements, you really just say, hey, let's hash this out once and for all and make a settlement to them.
Well, while we're talking about settlements, everybody loves a quick fix, right? So we've heard advertisements for Fresh Start programs that promise to help you settle your tax bills for pennies on the dollar. Are any of those things a real thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because it's a real program. It's just the way it's presented is really disingenuous. So this goes back to like 2011. IRS changed the way that they consider settlements on these big tax bills, and they call it the Fresh Start program. Well, you have tax relief companies. These are the commercials you hear that really have kind of run with it and present it in a way that's not necessarily matches up with reality. So IRS isn't saying, hey, anyone who owes money, we'll take pennies on the dollar. But if you're a taxpayer that truly has one of those bills that you'll never be able to pay off, or it's just an extraordinarily large number, then we can get a settlement for you. But yeah, it's not something where they're just handing out settlements to every taxpayer that calls.
Good to know.
Gotcha. Well, when it comes to the Fresh Start, how can viewers find you to get a fresh start if they have any tax questions?
Yeah, so if anyone has tax questions, excuse me, they can find my website at triumphovertax.com or give me a call at 619-591-9500.
Thanks so much, Adam.
All right, thank you.
All right, Adam Brewer, always here to give us some great tax tips. We're going to keep the tips going, though. Next up, tips for your mental well-being.